All right, today we're cracking open a case file that's been ice cold for over 75 years, but it's one that will still send a shiver down your spine. We're talking about the Texarkana Moonlight murders.
Just picture it for a second. It's 1946. World War II is finally over, and there's this huge sigh of relief, this wave of optimism sweeping across the country. But for this one little town straddling the border of Texas and Arkansas, that peace is about to be completely shattered by a new kind of horror, one that would haunt it for generations to come.
So, to really understand the terror that took hold of this place, we have to rewind a bit. Let's paint a picture of what life was like in Texarkana in the spring of '46, right before everything changed. With the war done, America was finally breathing again. And in Texarkana, life was getting back to normal. For the young people there, the main social scene, well, it wasn't some fancy diner. It was the privacy of their cars, parked on these quiet, secluded back roads that everyone called lovers' lanes. It was all pretty innocent, carefree, and it was about to become the perfect hunting ground. And just like that carefree feeling was gone. The post-war dream twisted into a living nightmare as this shadowy figure began his terrifying reign after dark. The newspapers, the public, they needed a name for this thing. This person who seemed to materialize out of the darkness and then just vanish. And the name they came up with was perfect. The Phantom Killer. It totally captured his elusive, ghost-like nature.
You know what's really chilling? How consistent the descriptions were from the few who survived. They all talked about this tall guy, about 6 feet, but his face, it was hidden behind this crude, absolutely horrifying mask, a burlap sack with holes cut out for the eyes. And he'd use a flashlight not just to see, but as a weapon, blinding his victims, completely disorienting them right before he attacked. That single image was burned into the town's memory.
But the Phantom didn't just stick to lovers' lanes. Oh no. In what was probably his most brazen attack, he went after a couple inside their own home. He shot Virgil Starks right through the living room window. When his wife Katie made a run for the phone, he shot her twice in the face. It's an absolute miracle she survived, and she became this crucial witness to his pure, cold-blooded brutality.
And the attacks, they weren't just brutal, they were chaotic. It wasn't just about killing, it felt like it was about spreading absolute terror. Get this, in one attack, he actually grabbed a victim's saxophone, an instrument of joy and music, and used it as a club. It's a detail so weird and so vicious, it almost doesn't sound real. It just shows you the twisted mind they were dealing with.
This level of violence, as you can imagine, had a massive effect. The Phantom wasn't just attacking a few people here and there. He was basically holding the entire city hostage. Pretty soon, that individual fear grew into a citywide panic.
The change in day-to-day life was just absolute. The town went from a place of post-war celebration to a community literally under siege. As soon as the sun started to go down, the streets were empty. The fear was something you could feel in the air. Nobody, and I mean nobody, felt safe.
So, people did the only thing they could think of. They armed themselves. Local hardware stores and gun shops completely sold out. Guns, ammo, locks, you name it. People weren't just locking their doors. They were turning their homes into fortresses, rigging up tripwires and makeshift alarms, all in a desperate attempt to keep the Phantom out.
The situation got so out of control that they had to call in the big guns, the legendary Texas Rangers, and the man in charge was Captain M.T. Lone Wolf Gonzaullas, a lawman who was basically a figure straight out of the Old West. His arrival showed just how serious this was. This was an all-out war against a one-man crime wave. But here's the thing. Even with a living legend like Lone Wolf on the case, the Phantom's reign of terror ended just as mysteriously as it began. And that brings us to the most frustrating part of this whole story. The Phantom's unsolved legacy.
So after this massive manhunt, the Texas Rangers, the citywide panic, the barricaded homes, what did it all amount to? It all came down to this one single number, 0. Not one person was ever convicted for these crimes.
He just stopped. The attacks ended in May of 1946, and the Phantom Killer just dissolved back into the night, leaving nothing behind but a legacy of fear and 1,000 unanswered questions. He was never identified. He was never caught.
Now, when a true horror story like this has no real ending, it doesn't just fade away. No, it evolves. It becomes something else. The Texarkana Moonlight murders became a cornerstone of American folklore. The terrifying story of a killer stalking couples on lovers' lanes. It directly inspired the Hookman urban legend we've all told around a campfire. And then, in 1976, the story was immortalized in the cult horror movie, The Town That Dreaded Sundown, which pretty much cemented the Phantom's legacy in pop culture forever.
And so that leaves us right back where we started, with the one question that still hangs over Texarkana to this day, a question that has fueled decades of speculation, of fear, and of fascination. Who was the man behind that crude white mask? We might never know.